Hi, I'm Marina Sirtis, and you're going boldly with Beyond Trek podcast.
This is Beyond Trek Podcast, your source for Star Trek on social media and around the web. I'm Big J.
I'm Watney.
And I'm Dag, the Trivia Master. You can find us on Facebook at Beyond Trek Podcast and on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod.
What I'm excited about is Watney. Watney told me she's mad. She's angry. Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was you liking 2 episodes in a row was, I knew it was too good to be true.
It was a fluke. It was a fluke.
It was the long con.
I could feel it.
It was absolutely that.
Well, before we get too far, Dag, we've got spoilers, right? I need to hit the where's my spoiler alert button.
Spoiler. Well, we do, but who the heck are you? Alert. I'm Dag.
You're our illustrious.
I'm Big J.
Illustrious Big J.
Oh, thank you.
And
yes.
Thank you.
And who's our super cool one in the medical uniform over here?
It's me, Watney. Your girl Watney.
And
we have our incredible trivia master Jag as well with us tonight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. As the trivia master, I do want to warn everybody watching or listening to us that we are going to totally spoil the heck out of this last episode, Picard episode 8, Broken Pieces. So you can put us on pause, watch the episode and come back, or you can just take it as it is because we're going full throttle into this episode. Watney, what was it?
Welcome to the Mass Effect podcast.
Darn right.
Where we talk about Commander Shepard and his ragtag group of friends going across the galaxy to fight the Reapers, an ancient race that lives in dark space that comes and purges the galaxy every 50,000 years when they've reached a certain level of technological progression. Does this sound familiar to you guys? Does this sound familiar to our listeners?
Well, that's news. I missed it.
What's really funny is the significant lack of association with Mass Effect 3 after this episode on the Star Trek forums. Like, I don't think anybody who's played Star Trek or who's watched Star Trek has actually played Mass Effect.
I haven't played it. I've never played it.
Right. So let me just give you guys some context about my feelings about this episode. The episode was great. The direction of the narrative, not so much, because my first sci-fi love was Mass Effect. Mass Effect is a trilogy of video games. You can play it on console or PC, where you play as a commander. His name's Commander Shepard, his or her, and you're basically fighting and trying to prepare for the beginning of the next cycle. And at the end of these cycles, a big bad race called the Reapers comes in from dark space and purges the galaxy of life because that's what they think is right. Mm-hmm. So you're fighting this the whole game, and there's an ancient race called the Protheans, and the Protheans were from the last cycle, and the Protheans leave a beacon of sorts for you to absorb, and it might kill you, by the way, but only the strong get the message. And Commander Shepard gets the message that the Reapers are going to be coming. And so it's just very, very, very similar to this last episode and what we learned about what's been going on in the motivations of these characters.
Wow. I didn't. So you're probably watching this episode throwing books and tables and everything around, and because
not until the very end. No, okay. Dad read my notes. It hits me at the very end that this is kind of what's going on. I kind of got a weird inkling of it when they were showing the scene of like the beacon or like the ancient artifact where all of the Zhat Vash like touch it and everything. And I was like, okay, vision of the future. Okay. And then at the very end when they have their powwow, I'm like, this is fucking stupid. And I have been apologetic about my criticism of this show, because I know that a lot of people listening are big fans. They're nostalgic fans. I totally respect you. But to be such a huge Mass Effect fan and see this plot be revealed, it's like devastatingly disappointing to me that the writers could not be original with how this is going to progress. I mean, it's like straight up out of Mass Effect. So
Maybe they were hoping no one would notice.
I mean, you have the same people watching all of these sci-fi and absorbing all these sci-fi genre IPs, so someone is bound to notice.
Yeah.
I know you're probably joking today, but so that's a lens I'm looking through moving forward, just so the audience knows.
Well, let's kick off your reflections at the beginning, shall we?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
We open to once again a beautiful nebula. That always kind of takes my breath away when we see those. Like,
so great now.
Watching it in just like beautiful HD, I'm like, oh, it's eye candy.
It kind
so you
of looked
open
like
up
the Pillars of Creation. Am I the only one that thought it looked like that?
I think they're showing, because at the beginning of the first Picard and of the first like few episodes, they show like these random nebulas.
Right.
So I don't know if they have any significance. Daggy, you're nodding. Do you have a comment? No.
I'm just
I never get the shrug from him. Yeah, so we explain we get explained by Commodore O, who I found out is half Vulcan, half Romulan.
Can I just say that here's what I liked about that revelation. Remember how we were talking 2 or 3 episodes prior, when she had the sunglasses. She came out and had the sunglasses on, and everyone's, oh, she's a Romulan. She's Romulan because Vulcans have that third eyelid. And so her wearing the sunglasses proves that she's not a Vulcan. But then she goes and does the Vulcan mind meld. And we were discussing how, well, she can't be Romulan because Romulans don't do that. So, okay, we were both right and wrong. She's half and half. So
she's half and half.
We all got our pie and we got to eat it.
Yes, we did. So I'm sorry, Watney, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. But in fact, before we get into the beginning, I said my piece. What do you guys think of this episode? And the plot revelations and all that.
You know what? Okay. Until you were like, this is Mass Effect, and I went and I looked into the Mass Effect lore, I was like, man, I am hoping for some creepy Lovecraftian stuff to come out of this. I thought that would be great to have, like, you know, with a positronic beacon of a planet full of droids like this, that positronics is the threshold that we have to cross. We're going to open a rift, and this Lovecraftian horror is going to go through and go, yes, breakfast is ready, and eat that planet and then go away again. That's what I was thinking. And like, I had this theory on Daystrom Institute on Reddit saying that we've already seen one of these Lovecraftian horrors, and it's one of the Renty ones. It's the crystalline entity. That's the one left over from the last intrusion. We got too big and too great. And when was the first time the crystalline entity was seen? It attacked Data's compound, his laboratory, where Soong was. And Lore was in communication with it. And then we destroyed it. And then we see Lore with the Borg. And what's he doing with the Borg? He's experimenting on them. Why? So he can call that signal again and get more of them. And what was the whole point of Descent? To rid the galaxy and the universe of biological life. And that's what Picard's aiming at here. So I was like, they've just taken a whole bunch of strings and tried to connect dots in ways that's super, I would say it's super
Mass Effect-y.
Headcanon-y, fandom-y, and now Mass Effect-y, yes.
Yeah, Mass Effect has extreme ties to Lovecraft. There's cycles of civilization. There's malevolent entities coming from the dark. There's a whole DLC called Leviathan that's underwater. Cthulhu, anybody?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I appreciate Lovecraft and all of that. So, not to say that Mass Effect was completely original, but I've been a fan for so long, and I think it kind of does its own thing in the category, and so it's very difficult to sit here and be like, okay, Picard is the plot has the bones of Mass Effect, and now it's just sad. I wish it had been different. So, Big J, what'd you think?
I was happy that you got a lot of good revelations, and it's because we're starting to wind down on the season, so it's time to start playing the cards, start putting the chips on the table. And I was very surprised. I had this whole theory that I talked about during our podcast that the Romulans had something to do with the creation of the Borg. And I wasn't alone. That was really going around, that a lot of people thought that there was some thread and some big reason that the Romulans and the Borg have such a connection. And what we found out was that there was no connection per se. And so the way they twisted that was great. In regards to the episode as a whole, before we go through it, I didn't mind it. I thought it was good. I liked it. I think that it gave us some of those pieces that we needed in order to propel the story forward.
Mm-hmm.
We got some really great 7 of 9 moments, Elnor moments, Rios moments.
Rios and the 5. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Watney, you put the words the best. Was the things that happened in this episode were awesome. The plot reveal was derivative, and that contributed to like the overall feeling of it being like, dang.
Yeah, for me.
Right.
For me.
And I mean, I'm the kind of person who loves that originality. So when you pointed it out, I was like, dang.
I know you made this tweet. You tweeted from our Beyond Trek Twitter, which is Beyond Trek Pod, if anyone wants to check us out. You were like, I made 82 slides for this episode. Did I miss anything? And I'm like, oh boy, do I have something to drop on you?
You ruined his day.
You can't see the forest for the trees. That's the perfect use. No, I'm kidding. You're great. You're not a Mass Effect fan. I don't expect anybody else to be pissed about this. But for me, I am upset. But I agree, Big J. This episode was great. It was kind of all over the place because I was like writing out the scenes and kind of what's going on just to keep following it. And I was like, dang, we're back on the board. Dang, we're on the La Serena. Dang, we're like all over the place. We're in the flashback. We're doing this. We're doing that. We got a lot crammed in this episode. So do we want to get into the details?
Yes.
Are we ready?
Let's hit the details.
I got
ready for this?
So many details here.
So many details.
Well, Dag, you be the train conductor and take us on this wild ride. I've got my prune juice here with me. I'm ready.
Oh yeah, I'm ready too.
Yes.
I have my water.
I choose.
Just kidding, it's not water.
I choose you. Ooh, okay, that doesn't show up at all with the green.
All right.
Okay.
So Watney, you left off with us on Aya.
Aya
planet. The name Aya in Japanese means truth.
Is this the admonition? Where the admonition is?
That's where the admonition is. Yeah, the planet.
And that's in the center.
They call it Aya, the grief planet. Aya, AIA. It means truth in Japanese. Derives from the word moon in Turkish, and in Turkish it means the good soul. And this is important later because there's another name in this episode that kind of means the same thing in different languages. And we see the admonition. And I don't know about y'all, but when I saw the admonition, the one thing that really stood out to me was Data. Why the heck is Data there in this flashback?
Why was he in that flashback? Yes, he was. Yep.
I didn't fucking see that. What?
When the slide comes up, because I saw it when the slide comes up, I'll show you.
Yeah, it's way past now. But in the admonition, you see that synth face that we've seen in the trailers, right? And in the admonition, it morphs into Data's face.
No fucking way! I missed it for some reason.
Totally true. Yeah, no, that's the benefit of me. Stop.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, CBS All Access is probably kind of like, why is this guy pausing 960 times in this episode?
Yeah.
He really had to go to the bathroom. Like, I don't understand.
At this point, he could just bring a bucket and sit it next to him.
I've heard the term poop sock used a few times.
Jay, cut that out. We don't want that to go on the
No. Girls can be gross too.
Nope.
So
yes.
There's 3 interesting things I noticed. They're all Narissa based in this episode.
Okay.
One, Narissa just grabs that pole like it ain't no thing. Everybody else is like, scary. And Narissa's just like, boom, I got this. Holy crap, this is a ride.
It's like the girl in Jurassic Park when she grabs the fence. She's like, or the kid. The kid is the one that does it.
Tim.
Yeah.
So then they do this effect where everybody's mind, like the visual effect is you can see everybody's faces warping and distorting, right? And you see Ramda's face warping and distorting, and it fills the whole screen. You see some other people's faces warping and distorting, and it fills the whole screen. And it goes to Narissa, and Narissa's only kind of warping because she gets it.
Yeah,
she's cool with this.
She's getting it. She may not be cool with it, but she has the resolve, and she succeeded her Constitution roll.
Right?
She rolled a fucking 20.
Wow.
And the DC, or she rolled like she has a modifier, whatever. You know, the DC on this was extremely high because the only people left at the end of this are her and Commander O or Commodore O. God damn it.
Yeah.
Commodore O, and everyone else is like, guess what? I'm out.
Like 3 people kill themselves.
They're like ripping their faces
Let me
off,
put a rock
like
to my head,
hitting their heads with rocks, blowing their brains out with a phaser. I mean, like, it's extremely violent. But she survives, and it really she's like crying because Auntie didn't like fully make it out of the admonition. Right. And we learned something about Auntie. We'll get there. Narissa starts crying, and she's like, we have our work. She keeps saying, we have our work to do.
Yeah.
I just love that phrase for some reason. And now she fully becomes the sympathetic villain. She has blossomed into, I understand her motivations and why. And maybe if the Federation had gotten this information, if the Federation had citizens from their side, officials from their side, go do the admonition, things would have turned out differently. We wouldn't have had a secret society, but it was the Romulans that did it. And that's why the plot led us to where we are in the present, because we know the Romulans have fucking emotional issues. You know, not to say the Federation doesn't have its own problems, but the Romulans are known for being very xenophobic. And so that's why they leapt to where they did, which was destroy.
So the way I understood the scene here was that so this planet was created basically just as a warning, as a warning beacon, and I guess to be initiated. This was an initiation into the Zhat Vash, and the initiation was you just had to survive knowing the truth. But here's the thing that kind of gets me, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but okay, me seeing that now this was this a premonition of the future, or was this showing what happened in the past?
I think it's what happened in the past.
Okay, so I see what happened in the past. I see that synthetic life blew up some planets, try to wipe people out. Why would that make me go crazy? Why would that give the kind of reaction that it did? Dag, do you have an answer for that?
Tell me. You're muted.
Oh my God, you're muted. There
my
go.
vocal processors are still broken.
He's back online, everybody.
He's back.
All right, so here's the takeaway on that. It's not that creepy chthonic horrors are coming out of a rift in space and annihilating worlds that have developed, a critical mass of positronics. It's the fact that I touched a bar and days, weeks, months of a civilization's memory were uploaded into my brain in a few seconds.
Oh, they got DDoS.
Pretty much. Okay. And not only that, but the DDoS is also terrifying. And it conveys all of the emotional grief of that entire society for going to a certain place, doing a certain thing, fighting against it, remember, the people who made this memorial, they're the survivors of that. They're the ones who not only lived through it, but they lived to see the devastation.
Oh yeah.
And everything left behind. And all of that goes into this memorial.
Yeah.
And so it gets downloaded into your brain in a split second. So you DDoS from that. And when you come back from that, there's a civilization's worth of grief festering in your brain. And some people just can't handle that.
It's like instead of the inner light, it's like the inner hell.
Oh, good play on words.
Basically.
That makes more sense.
I wonder if Narissa knows how to play the flute. I'm just saying.
The series ends with Narissa and Picard just playing the flute together. It's over.
Hey Jay, you made a great point that I didn't even think about, which was that this was an initiation that's been going on for a long time, which really answered a question I had, which was if the Zhat Vash have been around for a bazillion years or whatever, something crazy, and they've always hated synthetics, this would have been like one of the last initiations. My question, it is Data. Oh my gosh, he looks so angry. But I love him still. Still love him. So my question was, if the Zhat Vash have been around forever, why would the admonition happen so recently? Because Narissa has not. It's like very recent after that for her, just a few years, maybe a decade, maybe 5 years or something. Less than a decade.
Years.
14 years. So, like why would they just now start hating synths? But what you said makes me realize that they've been initiating throughout the years to keep their forces up, and whoever can hack it gets through.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
It's a big test.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for saying that, because that was a problem. That was a big problem I had. So,
and don't know how often they do it. It could be yearly. It could be every 4 years, every 7. Who knows? But basically, that's what it is. It's an initiation into this group or this club, and you cannot be in the Zhat Vash unless you have to survive. I mean, literally, these women were killing themselves after that. So it's, if you survive, then you're in. But
wait, is it all female?
All female.
Man, I'm fucking loving it with the female warrior like clans. Like
the Zhat Vash.
That shows exactly. It shows that they have definitely fought this other Romulan group of nuns or something.
The Qowat
Malat. And that's why Narissa knows how Elnor fights. Shit is starting to come together. As much as I'm pissed about the direction of the story, it is unfolding quite nicely. There's a lot of merit, I will say, in how things are happening. So I came out with a greater appreciation for Narissa. She's super hot. I'll just say that she's super hot. Like she just captures me on screen. She's just a presence to behold. So
I think that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dag.
I was just gonna say, like, there were 2 things about Narissa that sort of undercut her sympathy as a villain.
Oh yeah.
The first one is I really didn't feel like Ramda needed to be family. I felt like Narissa's scene with Ramda sort of undercut her sympathy, because if it's an aunt who raised you, then of course that feeling is obligated. But if Ramda had instead been a colleague that got a battle together, they fought together, they worked together, that sympathy would have been stronger and earned, and that scene would have been more powerful.
Do you really feel that way?
I do.
Okay, interesting. I have to digest that.
I would have thought the reverse.
I'm not sure I agree. I do think that the family card is an easy card in storytelling.
At this point in the game, I don't feel that it needed to be done. There was that did not change, to me, the value of the whole story, the episode of the relationship, by suddenly saying, oh, they were, aunt and niece. That at that point, that really doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I think I would agree. It would definitely change things. I just had to think about if it would have been like someone through a bond of, like people who in the military together are bonded, like that kind of thing, as opposed to being raised. We did learn that the reason Auntie, what is her name?
Ramda.
The reason the Borg cube was severed from the collective was because when they assimilated Ramda, her sheer despair over the vision that she had during the admonition was what caused the severance of the cube from the collective. The sheer despair that she felt. Dag is making all these kind of spirit hands.
It was a buffer overrun. It was a blue screen of death.
I think Narissa is an unreliable narrator here. I think she's definitely romanticizing the idea, and I also believe wholeheartedly that it was Ramda's assimilation that caused the submatrix collapse.
Yes.
I think the secret the Borg learned from the admonition is what caused the collective to go, oh, hell no, and cut it off.
She is romanticizing her 100%, and that shows a weakness that she has.
Well, okay, so you're thinking that the collective chose to cut off the cube as opposed to, like I said, she blue screened the cube. It just suddenly was offline, gone.
Well, I think they work together. I think Ramda's the assimilated knowledge of the admonition convinced the collective that their pursuit of perfection is what was going to lead to the devastation of the admonition. And the collective went, this threatens our entire existence. Snip. And that collective just went, that
it doesn't exist anymore.
Comatose. Yep.
Out of sight, out of mind.
The rest of the Borg went, didn't happen.
But how is that possible? Because the rest of the collective would know. But they're just severing the physical person? Like, is that what
Because if I have cancer in my arm and I cut off my arm, it doesn't change that I knew I had cancer, but it does stop the cancer from spreading.
Okay, but the whole thing about the Borg collective is that it's their minds. It's not like the Borg body. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
it's like your cells would have to know. Your cells in your right pinky toe would have to know that the cells in your left pinky finger had cancer.
I think this could be hand waved by saying that a queen could filter that data before it gets to the rest of the collective. I was just about
to say a filter.
Whoa. Yeah. So who was the fucking queen of that cube? Because there was a queen's chamber.
Not of that cube.
Not of that cube. Right. Seven says so.
There wasn't one? Is that...
Because Elnor asked her, did the queen live here? And she's like, no. And he's like, but she visited often. And she's like, I can explain or I can take the cube.
Right. Do you want me to tell you a story or do you want to get the fuck out of here?
Look, as an audience member, I kind of want the story, but then she was super badass, so I can forgive it.
There was no time to tell a story just then.
There really wasn't.
There's such a great screenshot coming up. If you're watching the YouTube video, give it like 2 more minutes. It's beautiful. And if you're listening to us, do take a second to try and find this timestamp on the video, because the scene with Seven getting those cords plugged into her, I got a great shot. It's beautiful. It's art.
I can't wait. Point it out when it gets here, would you?
The queen chamber doesn't mean that there's a queen on each cube. It just means that there is a private chamber.
She has her own executive suite on every cube, and she can just visit whenever she wants.
Okay, I guess I can accept that.
So I think Dag is right. I believe that there's probably, for a few milliseconds, maybe even a few seconds, that there is a filter of the assimilation before it spreads to the you would think that it would have to be a failsafe, because
it's like a firewall.
Right.
You guys make a lot of sense now. Yeah, making a lot of sense.
The queen is the Cisco router. She's got to firewall the stuff, and so whatever filter hit the queen, and that she's probably thinking, okay, fuck this, and cut off the cube.
Yeah.
Nope. She looked at that and she went, fake news.
Yeah.
It's like split ends. You just gotta snip them. Fake Otherwise news. they run up, they get worse and worse and worse and destroy the strand of hair. That's true. So so we cut to Elnor getting caught.
The freak.
Yeah.
No,
so
Edie.
Narissa's talking to Auntie, and then she's like, I have my work to do. And then she leaves. It's a fucking great segue. You're in this sentimental moment, and then she leaves and becomes like, turns on the brutal brain like piece, and she's like, time to fuck some shit up. And so Elnor gets caught. But who walks down the thing?
Seven
to the rescue.
Our mom, our space mom, love
Mama
her.
Bear,
mommy. He hugs her, and he's like, because she's an XB, and not only that, she's the XB. You know, she is not just an XB who's recently habilitated. It's been years, 20 years or more since she was de-assimilated. So she has all of the experience, the intelligence of the knowledge she got while she was with the Borg of their systems, and then she's had all this individual experience, and so now that merges, and she hacks the cube. She hacks the cube and drops down the Queen plug-in. What would you guys call that?
She needed to get the landline boost because she was on Wi-Fi and the signal wasn't working. Yeah,
it's like when you're trying to like your outlet is behind your bed and you're like trying to feel for it and like actually plug it in. She did that.
Some big Cat 6 cables came down, and I got to plug in landline. The Wi-Fi in this cube is garbage.
Eyes turn black. We are Borg. Fucking badass. I just love the whole thing.
This was our kiloquad router.
Oh yes.
not gigabytes, not terabytes, but full on
kilowatts. Yeah. I was actually sad when this was happening because I thought we were losing Seven.
No,
I thought we were too.
I thought we were losing her because she didn't seem at the beginning she didn't seem in control, but then she was kind of like, Annika has work to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, she plugs herself in. Narissa is already. She's like, can I suffocate them, electrocute them? And the guy's like, how about I jettison them out into space? And I'm like, she's like, oh, I like that. Do it. And give me your phaser. She goes and shoots a whole bunch of the XBs. Seven is like just hacking. Like I don't really know what she was doing in this time. I guess we were like cutting here and there. Yeah. And so she gets plugged in, and but before they can save the Borg in stasis, because there are thousands of Borgs on this cube that are not de-assimilated.
Right.
Narissa opens up the bay and
they all get
vents them all, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? She plugged herself back in, risked everything to then
lose all those.
And by the way, Borg can survive in space, first of all. And she could just beam them back in. So for her to be willfully obtuse on the writer's part and not like, who gives a fuck about the character's complacency if it just furthers the plot, right?
You're so right, though.
You just,
that scene would have been amazing if like the doors had opened and the Borg start getting sucked out, and then a force field appears, and it's like, and you just go back to Seven. We are Borg. It's like, yes.
Yeah, they all hit like the force field. Like,
I've never rooted for the Borg before, but in this episode, like even in the scene that I used, is very the scene that I used for the show was, sympathy for the Devils when they were getting ejected into space. Like, man, right when Seven was going to take control, right when the Borg were going to be under a benevolent power, getting rid of these Romulans and then going wherever it was going to go. Seven loses those people. The grief is on her face, but 30 seconds before that, the show was so worth it just to hear Seven say, "We are Borg," and it was her voice. It wasn't the collective's voice. I swear whoever audio engineered that just took Jerry Ryan's voice, layered it a dozen times, and then did all the tweaking to it so that it was 7 of 9 beating the Borg.
Yeah, it was fucking cool. It was really cool. I liked seeing it. We obviously knew that was going to happen.
I didn't know that was going to happen.
Me and Dag knew that was going to happen.
Okay.
Sorry,
Right.
Big J.
What were you thinking was going to happen, Jay?
I don't.
You didn't know Seven was going to be there. Well, you knew she was because of the Fenris.
Right.
Like,
well, yeah, because he set the beacon, and I had to listen to you guys talk about the whole thing when I was editing last episode. But I tried not to really pay attention, like just hear the words as I was editing, but not register them. And it kind of helped because I was still a little surprised when I saw some stuff. Which, yeah, that's okay. That's just my habit. I might watch the previews, just treat myself for the next couple ones.
Treat yourself, huh? I think you're addicted. I think you're addicted, just like the rest of us.
You gave me that taste of watching the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm
Elnor's like, you gonna assimilate me?
Mm-hmm.
You know? He's like, you gonna assimilate me? And she's like, bitch, I might. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, for half a second, I was like, that's it. He's assimilated.
And you called it.
He's the thing.
Yeah.
And then she's like, Annika has work to do. And I was like, oh, I can breathe.
The individuality, is still there. And then she unplugs, and that's that. So why did it happen? She didn't achieve anything by doing that other than looking badass. Narratively, it makes you think and hope that they're going to revisit it, and maybe now that she's done it and she knows that she can retain herself, she's going to use this Borg again, because her and Elnor are still in the cube. Narissa is leaving. The cube is like regenerating itself with these cool little like drone things on the outside. I don't think we've ever seen those before, right?
No,
We've
never seen
those little ship particles. And you can see, if you look at the scene closely, they're connecting to each other end to end and sort of suturing the damage to the cube.
Oh, fucking cool. I like that.
Cool.
That's a pretty cool, like, techie
I'd like to speculate that this cube comes to Picard's aid in the last episode under Seven's control.
Oh, that would be
just a cube out of nowhere taking a huge shot to save Picard.
Well, I think you're right, and here's why I think you're right on that. So the fleet, the Romulan fleet, heads out. They're heading to the Soji's homeworld, because now they know that wherever she was born, that there are other synth, or there may be synth in hiding, so taking refuge there. So they are going to go to the source. And so the Romulans are on their way, and there's a fleet of ships. So Starfleet's finally getting on board with the whole thing, and they're going. And this was something that that my son Nacho was talking about today when we were talking about the episode. Is well, what is Starfleet going to do when they get there? Because now they're going to know the same thing that the Romulans know, and plus, as we saw from earlier scenes, there were a couple synth diplomats, quote unquote diplomats, that Bruce Maddox sent out to try to test the waters. This was on Rios's prior ship. And somehow someone found out. The captain was given the order, kill these two.
Nuke them from orbit.
Yes, nuke them from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Kill these two, or we will destroy your ship from here. So I would think that once Starfleet gets there, are they, and despite what happened on Mars and that whole thing, even if they determine, okay, that was engineered by Commodore O, that was a lie, they were reprogrammed, whatever. Here's the thing: they're going to know the whole destroyer of everything, what happened in the past. What are they going to do? Are they going to side with the Romulan fleet and say, yeah, we do have to eliminate the synth, and the cube comes in and wrecks both sides, or what? I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but that was just something very, very peculiar that I thought about, is what are they going to do when they get there?
Fight. Yeah, it's going to be weird because the Federation, the Romulans, our beloved Picard, all have that information.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, go ahead. I'm just
this is all leading to the primary ethical, maybe not even ethical, maybe just conflict dilemma, which is, we know without a doubt, pretty sure without a doubt, that this devastation is going to come if we develop synths to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
We also believe that synthetic life has a right to exist despite this Federation ban. So we've got, on one hand, we've got Soji and her people who just want to exist,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got this beacon saying, yeah, okay, but. And Picard says it when he's talking to Rio. He's like, or Rios, he's like, well, that's what happened to them. What if we can find a different approach? And that's going to be the conflict that we're going to find at the end, is, do we get the, what I would consider to be the boring end, where we destroy the synthetic life in favor of not being destroyed ourselves,
not gonna
which
happen.
would still be a thing? Or does Picard, in all his ridiculous plot armor, get the ability to actually communicate with whatever this is coming for the synths and say, let me give you a Hershey bar and a Snicker. You can settle down. It's cool.
Yeah.
You're not yourself when you're hungry, and I can see you're very hungry.
They're not going to sacrifice the synths. They're not going to do it. And the Zhat Vash is going to resist, of course.
Well,
they're probably going to be a huge antagonist the whole season, just like these deep space visitors will be. But the Picard will convince, I think, the Federation to leave them. Look, they're peaceful. They're sitting here. It's not their fault. They're just the trigger. They're not the bullet. Do you know what I mean?
I get what you're saying, but I think if that happens, my first thought is going to be what the Commander-in-Chief Starfleet said in that episode after Picard made his pitch about getting a ship and crew, where she told him, sheer fucking hubris. And this is why I say that. You have a civilization that, however long ago it was, hundreds of millions of years or whatever, you had a civilization that was capable of pulling together 8 stars, and in such a way that it was gravitationally impossible for them to be there. This civilization created a beacon like no other beacon that has ever been or ever would be. So, so I would think that if you have the technology or the power, the ability to do that, and you did that just for a warning, then there is no way. I'm sorry. I am not going to take all that and say, well, Picard might be right. Maybe he has a chance.
I think that would be the entire reason for the story. Mm-hmm. Is that, and I can tell you, in Mass Effect, the Protheans in the previous cycle, who would be in Picard, the people who built the stars, the suns all together, mm-hmm. they were the most powerful empire in the entire galaxy. They had united pretty much everyone underneath them, mm-hmm. and they still could not defeat the Reapers. But what it takes is a fucking main character to do it. Mm-hmm. Narratively, Picard will do this. You can't destroy the Federation. You can't destroy the galaxy. Mm-hmm. It's narratively impossible for them to do that. I think they would just destroy the potential for other stories in Star Trek. They just can't do it. Will people die? Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Your friends in Mass Effect, they die in horrible ways, and it hurts really bad. But it's part of the sacrifice to get to that goal that other people never reached, even though they were more powerful than you. So while they may have had extreme power or technology to do that, Picard will have the constitution and the heart to do it. And that's what's going to take it there. That's my opinion.
Okay, we'll have to...
We can agree to disagree, man. We can agree to disagree. That's fine.
Maybe I'm just too cautious in my old age, but that just gives me a bad feeling knowing that like we said before in a previous episode, what happened on Mars could have happened to Earth. Are we going to take that? Now, I'm not saying that we're the way the season's going to end is that we lose the Federation, Starfleet's all destroyed. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I don't see them letting the synth be. I just think the stakes and the risk are way, way, way too high to let that happen. That's just me.
I think that it's going to take the ship that we have, the crew that we have to do it, and possibly other friends. I think the Federation is going to like turn their cheek like they did with the Romulan planet and sun. It's going to be, we already know stuff about Rios, and let's get a little bit back to like some of the plot, but Rios feels insane regret over how things happened on the ship with murdering the two synths that were sent as ambassadors. And so he is going, I bet my call is he is going to feel the drive to make it right. And the drive to fix it, so to speak. So we see Soji and Picard beam aboard La Serena, and Rios can't even breathe. Right. Like the way they were like filming him, I was like, bro, sit down.
Right.
Boo.
Right.
Sit
you
down,
and
babe.
Picard both.
Yeah, you guys all need to chill, dude. Like, Soji's like, what the fuck is everyone looking at me for? Do I look that weird? Right, I look human, right? She asked her Roddy later. She's like, I look fucking human to you, right? Rios can't breathe. He's like, I'll be in my quarters, rat. And Soji and Picard and Rafi have a moment where Rafi's like, I'm gonna shoot her. Picard's like, you'll have to shoot me first.
Well, and Rios is even like, I'm bailing. Like, I'll take you where you want to go, but then I am done.
Yeah, because the past caught up to him.
Can't deal.
The past didn't knock. The past. FBI, open up! Like the past is in his face, basically. So yeah, I mean, and he's like, we're going to Deep Space 12, which is fucking cool.
That's awesome.
That's gonna be awesome, right? Yep. That's gonna be so cool.
Well, but we're not going there anymore. We changed course. We went through the
no, she said we're gonna.
They're going home.
No. Clancy's sending the rendezvous.
Right.
Yes.
So, all right, thoughts. Clancy says we're sending a squadron and we'll meet you at DS-12. Go there, stay there. Soji takes over La Serena and takes them through transwarp coil to Soji's homeworld.
Oh, because Rios is like chill now at the end. Yeah.
But Narek is following them through the transwarp conduit. Remember at the end that ship decloaks and he goes through. I'm going to spoil this. In the teaser, Picard says it took us 25 minutes to go it took us 15 minutes to go 25 light years. So that's automatically a plot point about how much time ahead they are before the Romulans show up at that place, because the Romulans know where they're going. We saw them leave. So they're way ahead of the Romulans. We have just enough time maybe to get an episode or half an episode in before the Romulans show up next week. But who do the Romulans work for? Commodore O. We've seen Commodore O talk to Clancy. O is going to tell Clancy they're not at DS-12. They're at this other place. Send the squadron there. The squadron's going to show up, and you're going to have Picard, the Romulans, the squadron, and the things.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Cat.
and our 10th episode is going to be the four-way showdown between all of these forces.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be like, no, you.
Right.
I would have loved to have seen DS-12 because I like to think that DS-12 meant Deep Space Station K-12, which is where Kirk and Koloff did the whole Tribbles, trial, not
Deep
Trouble with
Space
Tribbles.
12. Man,
Trouble
I
with
just love.
Tribbles.
I just fucking love stations. Give
Yep.
me one. Give me one. I love them. They're like one of my favorite things about Trek is the stations.
I don't think there's any reason to think that that's not what they're talking about. Deep Space 12 is the same one from Trials and Tribulations and Trouble with Tribbles.
It would be a really cool like callback, yeah, for sure. So Raffi is kind of coming into her own in this episode. I think she is finding her voice. She's being validated. Every time she talks to another Rios, she is more confident, but also terrified. So Rios goes to his quarters and he's like, bye. Shuts everything off. And he has installed himself as holograms for each purpose. So you have an engineering Rios. You have like a tactical Rios, you have a hospitality Rios, you have a medical Rios, and you have, what's the other one? Navigation Rios, who was really fucking cool and gave us a lot of really great names and just like good stuff, like a lot of lore. So Raffi goes, she can't find the actual Rios because she doesn't want to like bust into his quarters. So she goes to each of the holograms and tries to piece everything together separately. It's not working, but she is getting some answers. And she's like, okay, I'm going to get them all in the same room. So then we get all the holograms in Picard's vineyard, and they're all sitting around, and they're just the same. Every time she gets close to the answer, you can tell that Rios has wiped it.
Yes.
From the collective program of these holograms. Because they're like, oh yeah, Jana, she was the... Like it's like that every time they get close to the answer. So eventually she goes to Rios himself.
They know it's there, but they can't find it.
They can't find it. Great acting, amazing acting by
all 5 acts.
Yeah, I mean I love them. I want to protect them at all costs. We have the ENH, who's the navigator. His name's Enoch, right? That's how you say it, I think.
And he even pronounces it ENH.
ENH?
ENH, not ENH, but ENH.
ENH, yeah.
Because I think
okay.
H is how it's pronounced in Irish. Could ask Murphs.
Okay. Is that the guy who was Irish?
Enoch.
Enoch was, okay. You have what's Ian. The other guy's name? Ian, who's the navigator? Okay. We don't have to go through all of them, but they were
his navigator. Ian was
the engineer.
The engineer.
Right.
Emmett is the tactical guy.
Emmett.
And then there's the hospitality guy and
tactical's Emmett, and then anyway.
Yeah.
I love them.
Mon Dieu.
We got to see a lot of cool stuff. We got to see Rios, even though it wasn't Rios, which I thought was cool. So Raffi busts in. She's like, "What's going on, babe?" And he's like, "Okay, let me tell you everything. I'm done. I'm done moping. I'm done doing."
And we learn all of that.
We learn all of the things about Vandermeer, the captain that he was first officer of. He thought of him as a father. He ended up killing these ambassadors that they found in the middle of nowhere because of the directive that they were synths. One of them was basically Soji. It was her name was Jana, but she was another Soji.
And that's the other name.
What do you mean?
Yes. Remember at the beginning I said
Aya.
Aya.
Yeah. Aya.
So Jana is Persian for soul, whereas Aya was Turkish for soul. And Jana is a Roman, it's another name for the Roman goddess Diana, who was goddess of the moon. And Aya is derived from the word moon in Turkish.
Oh, wow. This is good stuff, Trivia Master. I like
Very interesting mirrors there.
I love name shit. Thank you. I love like all the hidden meanings and stuff.
And then there's that dude named Beautiful Flower.
I know, what the hell?
I love it. That's going to be how they name themselves.
Well, and I think that's
so
great.
Cute?
But remember, Dodge said that her dad named a breed of orchid after her.
God damn it. They're really doing this shit, aren't they? with all this naming things. I like it, but I'm just like,
I think they're taking it pretty far for sure.
I didn't get it.
Yes, a little bit.
That's fine. Yeah, that's so cool.
I did watch the episode 3 times yesterday.
I know you did. I know you did. I know. So, Soji, Picard have a meal. He's like, "How do you like your food?" She's like, "It's fine." She's like, "Would you want something else?" She's like, "I don't know. You don't have that vacuum inside of you where someone asks what you prefer and you don't know if the answer is in your brain or if it's part of your instruction set." So she's
Powerful.
she is very powerful to put yourself in her shoes.
Yes.
She's still suffering from the revelations of Nepenthe. It was, I'm sure it's extremely traumatic to her to have all of this like doubt about her own reality happening, and it's still going on. And so they start to talk about Data, I think, as like a distraction, or just as kind of get to know him. Picard is like, she asks how Data was, and he's like, "Well, he made us laugh, unless he was trying to make us laugh," which I thought was so fucking true. Hearing about Data was so special and precious, and Soji's like, "Did you love him?" And he's like, "I did, in my own way." And he goes into like how he interacted with Data, and he's like, "I believed in him and his potential. I would celebrate his success, counsel him when he falls short, but if he didn't need my counsel, I'd get out of his way." And I was like, that's so accurate. Like the whole of TNG, I just think that that's so on point. Right. Very well wrapped up. And Soji just like, she's eating, processing it, and she's like, "Huh, he loved you." And it's like, because the positron that they made her out of from Data had just a single fucking positron, had enough of Picard in that positron, and the love for Picard that it translated to Soji and manifested within her. And I just think that it's that aspect of the plot and Soji's backstory is extremely beautiful as how it relates to Picard. It's,
I mean, he almost broke down. You could see him.
I was breaking down, man. Wow. I was breaking down. What did you guys think of that?
That really hit me. Yes, that was really big, because and here's the thing that I think we kind of forgot that we need to remember, was that Data in the last about 7 years of his life had emotions. He had that emotion chip.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a thing. So yes, he certainly was capable of feeling love. And I just think that's great. That was good. That was good when she said that really hit home.
Mm-hmm. Dag, what did you think of all that?
I thought it was a nice ending to that particular conversation.
The resolution of Data.
It's got to be hard for Soji to know that Data loved this man, to know that she knows that. It's like a belief. That's knowledge in her head, and still not be able to tell the difference between whether or not she likes A. Like, that disconnect for her has to be harsh.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she's feeling these emotions from Data and his emotions, but to hear of him still being almost primitive in comparison to her is probably a comfort to her, I would think. Like, the thing with Data is he knew he was an android his whole life. And so he was like, "I'm Pinocchio." But Soji thinks she's fucking human, and then she figures out she's Pinocchio. And that's not a fun thing to go through at all. Yeah. It causes an existential mental breakdown.
It's almost like a mind-breaking secret.
Well, think about that. Think about if you just woke up one day and found out that you were an alien, you're a plant, you're a double agent.
I love it.
Designed and created to be a human, to get information.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just, I know that would kind of bother me if I just found out that, I'd lived this whole life, but I was not human, and that I was
I love that
actually
scene where
something.
she sits down at the nav and they're like, "How do you know all this?" And she's like, "Ever since you guys told me this stuff, I know a whole lot of stuff that I didn't know when I was just pretending to be Soji Asha."
I've been
I was like, "Oh,
activated.
coming out."
She's activated.
Yep.
Everything is unlocked. It's like you go from level 2 in your game, your RPG, and all of a sudden you're level 75.
She leveled up. Level 75.
Like
She leveled up.
everything. She's got it all. She's got all the information that Maddox ever wanted her to have, that Data ever had, all that feeling. And she's like, I'm so scared. What is going on? My mom was fake. Like, she's just freaking out. And now she's suddenly like, I know this. I'm capable. I can do this. Because she was before. The thing was, she was before. She was an emotional, connected person. She was, but the doubt creeped in after she learned. And now she's like kind of coming back to where she was, except she has more physical power and more mental power and more knowledge. And it's fucking cool. Dag, I can tell you're going to say something.
There's so much going.
I know. We're kind of off.
I'm a little dejected now because you made me think of another derivative, but she is now sort of becoming like Serenity's River Tam, where once she knew all the secrets, she could take on the Horde by herself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. She could single-handedly just enact some heavy devastation and damage. You're right. That's a good analogy there.
Yeah, I mentioned that in like the first episode, I think.
Okay. Who thought that Soji was gonna wreck Girardi when the two of them were just standing there talking to each other?
I wouldn't give you that opportunity.
Scared.
Yeah.
I was so scared.
Right.
Because she's like, what do you do when you're hungry? I eat. What do you do when you're sad? Cry. What do you do when you're thirsty? I drink water. And she's like, you drink water when you're thirsty. I love that. That's so beautiful. And I just expected Soji to just like demolish her right there in that lab. But then instead, and the cinematography here is really good in my opinion, because when Girardi is asking Soji these questions, the camera is Girardi standing well above.
Like she's
Soji.
kneeling to her god, to her deity.
Well, above. Girardi is standing above Soji. And then as Soji steps up and goes, as Soji is like, am I a person? It's instantly Girardi is now
okay. So it switches.
Down. And Soji's like, am I a person? Not existentially, not like theoretically, but to you right now in this moment, am I a person? Don't get answer. What we get instead, and this is a show not tell, is Soji helping Agnes to the table later on. The door opens and Soji is cradling Agnes's arm and walks her over to the table and helps her sit before she sits down next to her.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we get to know what the answer to that question is? Maybe later. This show is really, really good with the flashbacks and showing things that happen, beforehand. Right. But I think it's pretty safe to say that, after Girardi was like, I'm never going to take that chance. That
I would never take it.
Right. Soji uses that droid, like, your heart's pulsing because you're terrified of me, but you're not lying, so I'll trust you.
Right. Yeah. Do not lie to the synth.
Yeah, Soji was really kind of badass in that scene because she was like, she didn't have she wasn't wavering at all.
Right.
She was like, do I look human to you? Do I look like a person?
It's a perfectly reasonable question to ask.
It is. And Girardi's like, I did kill him or something. I killed Maddox. And Soji's like, I would never give you that opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh,
yeah.
We get it. She is it. She's it. And then during the conversation, Dad, they walk out and I'm like, oh, I like the camaraderie. I enjoyed that, especially after Girardi was so anxious to meet her, but knowing like potentially what she was. And the secret was killing her, is what was killing Girardi. The secret was destroying her. She couldn't share it. We did see her in sickbay after she woke up from her coma, though. She was in a coma, right? Or she was in
in a coma.
Something like that.
Briefly.
Yeah, and she wakes up and Picard is saying, you're gonna turn yourself in. And she's like, I promise I will. And I'm like, oh, okay. She feels bad.
She does.
She feels bad for it, but she was compelled to do so. She knew no other way out. She thought she was the operative that was taking care of this like galactic destruction, was like she was the linchpin, basically.
Right.
So now that's been lifted after she has seen what she knows more.
Oh, there's a kitty. Kitty wants to say something too.
Strikes again.
Your mascot.
Yeah, she agrees. Yeah, she's a ship cat. Yeah, so that they walk out together to the powwow. You have Rafi, Rios, Picard, Soji, Girardi. They're all sitting around, and Girardi's like, I'm done with the murdering, which I thought was kind of a weird line.
It was
kind of awkward. Yeah, it was awkward how she was saying it and like walking in. I'm like, just fucking sit down.
Yeah, she's a psychopath.
Yeah, I don't think she is. I don't think she's a psychopath. I think that
I think what she knows broke her.
Yes.
Yeah, and it wasn't the fact that Maddox died that was upsetting her. She tells Picard the reason she was upset, and I think one of you mentioned this in the last couple episodes. The reason she was upset was not Maddox. The reason she was upset is because of what she saw.
Yes.
And it's completely true. She admits it to Picard, and Picard's like, hell will come again. And he looks so slick. His outfit. Did you guys notice?
Yes.
Picard looks like looking good. And Girardi has help now. She has help from the others. So
and that's when Soji walks in and says, I'm Seb Cheneb. I'm the destroyer.
And it's me.
Yeah, it's me. I'm the one. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah. So, and then Rafi does the whole, I'm telling you, audience. Telling you. She tells us everything. She says, like, they move the suns. The Jadvash did this. This is what is coming. Together. She puts it all together as her intelligent and incredible brain and mind would have done, because she spent her whole life on this fucking conspiracy theory. And the Conclave of 8 is actually the 8 stars. So she feels like so validated. And Rios gets Soji the fries and the shake.
Yeah, you like these, huh? How do you know that?
And she's like, she's never had it. But Rios knows more about her than she does because of his experience. And Jana knew herself. Jana knew she was an android. Whereas Soji has never had a peppermint shake, probably. But she's going to see it's the most delicious thing she's ever tasted. If you've ever been to Wendy's.
Well, then she destroys that table.
She destroys it? I thought she just hit it.
Yeah, she just hit it real hard.
Oh, she pulled a Watney.
Yeah. She bends the crap out of it. I'm looking at the picture now, the before and after, and she just basically busts the grating out of it. The fries end up on the floor. It's joked.
Yeah.
And then she goes and takes over the ship.
She does. And Rios and his lullaby saves the day. He has a secret lullaby coded into his ship's computer where he will sing it and the ship will shut down.
Yep. He gets control.
That was genius.
He gets control. Totally genius.
It was super cool to end on that motion and just like slap the force field away. Like, get out of my way.
I know. I like Rios a lot. He's really growing on me. And Rafi are probably my faves.
I like the level of understanding they sort of have with each other, even with Soji being this new and weird person, and the fact that Rios and Picard had that moment where Picard's like, we don't need to be afraid. And Rios is like, dude, she hacked my ship in 5 minutes.
Yes, it's time to be afraid. You've got to be very afraid because...
But then Picard's like, we can choose. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to run away. We don't have to ban it. We don't have to lock it out. We get to choose how we respond to these situations.
And then he tries to fly the ship, and he's like, I don't know how to do this.
I don't know how to use this.
I don't know how to do this. Which I'm like, God, Jesus, Picard, you didn't keep up at all?
No, he's retired.
And you wanted another ship and squadron?
You got rusty. Well, he can captain, sure. Delegating, being an inspiration, giving orders. It doesn't mean that he would expect to actually sit down and drive the thing, but it
happened. Janeway did it many times.
Yes.
So,
Picard stands up for her and is like, she tried doing it Maddox's way, i.e., infiltrate the cube and figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. She tried doing it my way. Let's do it her way. Let's go into this Borg thing and let's go to her homeworld and do the thing.
Fuck yeah. The transwarp conduit looked so cool.
It did.
It looked amazing. It was like beautiful, and they're like going slowly, but really they're going like super fast.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. That was badass.
They get to the transwarp conduit. Soji pulls out the compass that she was given, which points north because of the magnetic flux from the transwarp conduit.
Oh, for real? Yes. Okay, that's where that comes. Honestly, when Rafi started revealing that this was actually Mass Effect, I kind of like tuned out. I'm sorry, I tuned out. I did not watch the teaser. I was very upset. So
I really love that when Soji's like, yeah, we're just gonna go in a transwarp conduit, it's fine. And Rios is like, what? No chronoton field? You're just gonna let the gravimetric shear just tear us apart? And like last week, I looked up the transwarp stuff, and I was like, he's talking about the science.
Yeah, the chronoton fields that like will start ripping up a Borg cube because of its size, and that's why they have like their conduits inside. Or
they have to have
their coils.
They have to have the chronoton field, otherwise parts of the ship will temporarily desync. And they'll be like in different times
because of the sheer size and speed.
Because the Borg cubes are too big. The little ship should have been okay, but I guess at this point, Rios is very Starfleet and by the book on this. We're not going to go in there without the right stuff. They go in, and Narek goes in after them.
Yes, it was very YOLO. Like, we got to go. We don't have the protection, and
this is not the final destination. For sure. They're going to get welcomed there because they have Soji. So, I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the season. Now that we had the revelation, I'm sure they're going to fight the Zhat Vash and Narissa because she's kind of the big bad of the season so far. I hope she sticks around because I really like her. Anytime she's on screen, I'm like, what a badass. Like, I just love her. She's really grown on me the last couple episodes. She's really capable. She has amazing shoulder pads, like Romulans do. Oh
yeah,
it's kind of like their like she takes like the better part of their fashion, and Lady Gaga's it, and like actually looks good wearing it. She's not like a box with a head like the usual Romulans are.
Hey, she took the 90s fad and she 2000 did. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, she looks so good. And then so Narissa's end to this episode is she is like, is my ship ready? But her Centurion has been tackled by the XBs, and she starts getting like grappled by them. They take her down. They start doing the whole zombie grabbing at her thing, and then she teleports. What is it?
The
transports.
She transports. God damn it!
She eats herself off the bridge.
She eats herself off the bridge. She transports herself into her ship, and then they flee the cube. And now Elnor, the XBs, and Seven have the fucking cube to themselves. Yeah. So I definitely can't wait to see what we get with that. That's gonna be awesome.
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
What are you guys' last thoughts on the episode itself before we jump
in? Big J, you go first.
Okay. So my thoughts is that if you take away all the incest between Narek and Narissa and that whole thing, that to me Narissa kind of seems like the Thanos of this season, where you get to a point where you believe that this person is doing what they think is right. We may not want to admit that it's right. We may not agree with the methods, but that's what it is. And for anyone who's listening or watching and is not sure where I get the reference, so Thanos from the Infinity War and Endgame, basically Marvel villain, his whole thing was he was out to cut half of all intelligent life, all existence in the universe, half, because of scarcity of resources, et cetera, et cetera. So he had this goal, this ultimate goal, and he felt he was justified. He's doing this this is my way to help. It's extreme. They called me a madman, but the math says that you cut your cost by half and you will have more for the other half. And it almost makes you feel like the Avengers are the ones that are the villains, because they're trying to stop this man who's doing something extreme for the better good. It's just in a way that we can't swallow.
I can see that.
Yeah. So now with Narissa, okay, she is part of an organization that is, we're trying to keep you people alive, sort of thing. We are trying to make sure that there are no synth, that it's not research, it doesn't happen. So I think that we're going to see a very interesting thing. I think that with the Romulans, it's fulfilling that mission because they've seen Doomsday, and with the Federation, they're going to be put in a very, very tough position because they had their scare in the early 2250s with Control. So
right,
that was on Discovery. So they have every reason to believe that, yes, we did it. We almost did it. We had the synthetic life, advanced and advanced technology, and it was almost our undoing. The whole time, the Romulans were secretly doing their thing to keep that from happening. So they're going to be in a very much a dilemma. It's like what can happen. You almost had it happen. You had to send a ship 950 some years into the future. You had to make it punishable by treason to even talk about Discovery or say the word. So Starfleet is in no position to pass judgment on the Romulans, because they've each had something happen. Now, well, Starfleet actually had it happen to them. My takeaway from the whole thing with the Romulans is that they discovered that planet and took it upon themselves to make the organization's forever mission to keep that from repeating. So they know it's going to happen. They want to keep it from repeating, and Starfleet saw it firsthand. They with the whole thing. So I think there's going to be that was my takeaway from the episode, is it's setting up very much a conflict of morality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, which is going to be big. That's my takeaway.
Okay.
Watney?
I feel like, I don't know. I struggle with the future of the series for reasons that are probably very personal. Given like my franchise and IPs that I love, this is kind of an odd collision that I was not expecting. So while I'm hesitant about the future of the plot and how they pull that off, and like being not excited because I've already played through this kind of thing and I feel like it's not super original. I'll be mad at Alex Kurtzman for the rest of my days for doing it.
Well, remember, Michael Chabon is the writer, so blame him.
Well, Kurtzman is the producer.
That's true.
So they both suck to me right now, honestly.
You're not in the.
If you're listening,
I think it's fine.
I don't think they're listening. They probably do not listen.
I'll tag them in the post on Twitter.
But if you are, I'm disappointed in you. But you have a pile of money, so who gives a fuck?
That's true. Yeah.
So my thoughts on the episode itself, like in a granular fashion, are that I really liked it. I loved seeing Rios and all of his hollows. I love where Rafi is headed, and from a character standpoint, I love that Soji and Jurati were united. I love that Picard is kind of like things are vibing with the La Serena crew. And I'm excited, I guess, to see what happens next episode, but that's kind of where the excitement stops. You know, like I'm excited for next episode to see what happens, but in terms of narrative and now we know where it's going, I am disappointed. So, Dag.
Well, this is very personal to me too. I really like mixing elements, but I'm just really not sure that I can handle mixing French fries with peppermint ice cream.
Yeah. That just sounds like it would taste gross. Yeah.
You guys are fucking weird. You've never dipped fries in a Frosty?
Whoa,
No.
Fries and Frosties, those are gold, and I'm super blurry for whatever reason.
I know you do. It's okay.
Recalibrate the camera quickly. There you go.
There you are.
No, I know that was a joke, but
look, I want to try it.
That's like pineapple on pizza. Crazy people.
It's divisive is all that I want to say about that.
As derivative as it is, I am here until Picard's end of line.
Yeah.
I just am.
Yeah.
I mentioned it in the last episode with Jonathan Del Arco getting to play Hugh's death. How many actors get the opportunities to put a definitive end on characters that they introduced?
Dude.
And who knew 32 years ago that Jean-Luc Picard was going to become a worldwide name?
Right.
People recognize it. People know Jean-Luc. When Kirk died, that was one thing. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have fandom the way we have fandom today.
Picard is the face of Star Trek. I'll be honest with you.
We've heard there's going to be a season 2 of Picard, but that could be some misdirection. If Picard dies this season, next season, third season, it will be a milestone for pop culture.
I don't want to think about that.
I don't want to think about it. I can't think about that. No, I gotta keep that thought.
Well, let's go into trivia then.
Okay,
and we'll have some fun with trivia. Watney, the very first trivia thing today is going to make Watney feel a little bit more vindicated because it's derivative. The admonition in which these Romulans get to view some horrible history from some people who learned a big lesson after a mistake is just like that episode, The Memorial of Star Trek Voyager, where Chakotay starts, with the obelisk and the whole crew starts fighting each other.
I don't remember that one.
Except for
like Neelix.
Single episode.
Yeah, it was a single episode in which there was this memorial placed on a planet that was projecting don't do what we did message. And everybody on Voyager is reliving this terrible battle where there was a slaughter that occurred that shouldn't have happened. So, that.
Okay, cool. Good to know. The next thing,
if you're big fans of Star Trek 6, at the beginning of this episode, we learn that it was a Viridium isotope that Jurati swallowed. In Star Trek 6, Spock drops a Viridium patch on Kirk's shoulder so that they can track him on Rurapente.
That's so cool!
That's right. That is cool.
Now, the technology has improved over time. Now it's ingestible instead of just sitting on your uniform the whole time. But Who the heck doesn't have like scanners set to Viridium just as a default? Come on. You can detect Viridium isotopes from sectors away, and nobody just default scans to make sure nobody on their ship has. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one.
Okay.
When Soji asks Picard about Data, one of the ways that Picard describes Data is very gentle. And if you remember that heart-wrenching scene in Star Trek Generations where Troy asks Picard what Renee was like, Picard says the same thing. He was so very gentle.
Ooh,
Renee, of course, had died in a fire just a few days before. I'm sure this was super obvious. As soon as we meet Ian, the Rios holographic engineer, he has a Scottish accent. He's the engineer. He's got a Scottish accent. Come on. That was a Montgomery Scott reference all the way.
Yes.
100% Scotty.
Love it. Yeah.
Raffi sits down and points at Rios' record player and calls it a Walkman. I just thought that was cute. So for some reason, Sony's tape deck is immortal after 400 years. People still know what that is. I don't even know what a 400-year-old music player is today, but
right.
Persist.
Well, I mean, record players came back, so stuff comes back full circle.
Yeah, Rios has a badass vinyl collection.
Yeah.
Another thing, when Picard's talking to Rios, one of the things he mentions is about his time on USS Reliant. Now, we're not talking about the Reliant that was destroyed in The Wrath of Khan. We're talking about the Reliant that was referred to by Admiral Nakamura when he was Lieutenant Nakamura and Picard was Ensign Picard on the USS Reliant. And the episode in which that was mentioned was Measure of a Man, which featured Data and Maddox for the first time.
Oh, nice. Nice catch.
Picard mentions that Rios' skipper, he sort of met him when that skipper was the first officer under Captain Marta Batanides.
Marta something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who was featured as Picard's love interest in the episode Tapestry.
That was her.
That was her.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
Marta.
Man. This is too much.
I mentioned this earlier today. One of the Synth Rios encountered on the Ibn Majid was Beautiful Flower. And Daj's dad named an orchid hybrid after her. Beautiful Flower. Rios' former ship, the Ibn Majid, was named after Ahmad ibn Majid, a famous 14th century Arabian navigator, cartographer, and poet, and is regarded in the West as the person who led Vasco da Gama on his seafaring tours. But that claim is disputed.
Oh, okay.
This is the first episode to depict a Borg cube regenerating since the Borg were introduced in TNG Q Who in 1988.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you guys remember how practical effecty the Borg cube looked? It was like actually metal wire. Like it looked almost like a toy when it was in the viewfinder. It looked like just you could reach out and touch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now it's all like looming
shifty
dark,
walls.
shifty walls. It is different, and maybe the Borg did get better about their aesthetics.
Yeah.
They got a higher budget.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about that feature is, I believe in Q Who, the way that they made the Borg cube look like it was repairing itself. Was they just played a footage in reverse of a fixed ship that was slowly being melted by fire. They just played that in reverse so that it looks like it's coming back together.
Wait, they did what?
So the practical effects were, we have this Borg facade and we're gonna put a candle underneath it and the facade's gonna melt. And then we're gonna play that footage in reverse so it looks like the facade.
Oh, okay. I need to go back. Honestly, I kind of want to do an entire TNG rewatch.
It's always time. It's always good time.
It's always time for that, right? Yeah.
I volunteer as tribute. More trivia. You're not going to believe it. More trivia. Rios owns a book called Surak and Existentialism. Hardcore fans will recognize Surak as the father of Vulcan logic. He's been referenced several times. Surak was depicted by the Excalibians in an original series episode, as well as Archer having contained the Katra of Surak in an Enterprise episode.
Huh.
For anyone wondering who is Surak, Surak is the Vulcans who Jesus was to the humans.
So there's two more things.
Kind of.
And then I have one when you're done.
Oh, I'm going to be... Oh, Watney has trivia for me. I'm so excited.
You guys might know it, but it's new to me, so I'll share it.
So one of them is the way of Narissa's shoulder pads. You talked about it earlier, how they're just like imposing, but they looked a lot like Shinzon's. I was so like... I wanted to take a silhouette of Narissa and overlay it with Shinzon and be like, they're wearing the same form. Not the same costume, of course, but the same form. The high tiered shoulder pads coming down into a long cloak.
Yeah.
Perfect. And the last thing is Enoch mentions he can't remember anything about Medusan astrogation techniques.
Right. That's a cool name. What is it?
The Medusans were an alien species introduced in the original series episode, Is There in Truth No Beauty? Mm-hmm. No human could look upon a Medusan, but a Vulcan could with very special glasses.
Oh yes, the glasses with the red kind of the red film in which Diana Muldaur, who would go on to play Dr. Pulaski in season 2 of TNG, was in that episode. That was one of the 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, she was in TOS.
Yeah,
that's right.
She did 2 episodes.
What
of
a
TOS.
boss!
So this is the first mention of Medusans since that episode as well.
Man, they're really doing some deep cuts.
They are.
They're getting in the deep cuts. They really are.
Well, what they're doing is they want to piss off all the people that keep saying that this isn't canon, it's not part of the prime timeline. We're going to just shove it right in. We're going to put in so many references that's going to.
Man, I feel like I need to do a rewatch of the first few episodes because I didn't have trivia like this before the last episode.
Right.
And
of Picard.
Yeah.
Oh,
the last episode was the first one where I was picking up all the things, and this episode I was picking up all the things, and the first 6 episodes I was like, "What's going on here?
What's happening? Help me!" That's how I was too.
But I am super interested in Watney's trivia. What is it? Tell me.
Yes, I gotta hear this.
You guys probably already know this. So you know Dr. Girardi and Picard are both fans of Isaac Asimov, right?
Right.
The science fiction writer who created the idea of the positronic brain.
Yeah. Super cool.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I did not know that he created it. And then they just fucking name dropped him.
Yeah.
So he made that in like the 40s.
Yeah.
And that was like a huge, it's not just in Star Trek. The idea of a positronic brain is like the human consciousness of a robot, which I knew that, but I did not know that it came from the fucking 1940s, which is so amazing. That guy was like way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my trivia.
No, he's really awesome.
Positrons. Audience, if you didn't know that with me, I think these 2 knew it and they're just being nice. But
no, I did not know that specific thing. I knew Asimov was behind a lot of the just the whole evolution of technology and robotics.
He was behind the 3 laws.
Yes, the 3 laws of robotics.
Yeah, I mean, you see like the positronic brain and so much other media. You see it in like Doctor Who. You see it in the Avengers. Of course, Star Trek, iRobot, Bicentennial Man. Those all have like the consciousness of the positron.
Right.
So,
and
pretty cool.
Positrons are just electron antimatter.
It was a big buzzword back then, which added the increased like
cool
effect of the positronic brain. So yeah, that's all I've got for this episode.
That's all I got.
That's really good trivia.
Thank you. My first one ever.
Good job.
Yeah, no, it's great.
So I'm going to tell our audience where you can find us
how can you find
online.
Us
I'll tell you, of course, like I always do. We have a Patreon. We would love your support on Patreon. We're always adding new tiers, new perks for our members. Our Patreon is patreon.com/beyondtrek. We also have, of course, a Twitter. We're on there all the time. Dag is like our Twitter master, but both Big J and I go on go on and tweet too sometimes. So that is at Beyond Trek Pod. Catch us there. And then we also have a Facebook, of course, so you can like us and follow us on Facebook at Beyond Trek Productions.
And if you stayed with us for this craziness and you've got words to say, please send us your submissions. You do a audio recording, send it to us at beyondtrekpodcast@gmail.com, and we will put you on the show. Put you in a segment of a fan response audio or video. So that's all I've got.
Dag, any final words? Your last words.
Live long and prosper.
Fuck yeah.
This is Nacho from Beyond Trek Podcast. This is my review from the recent episode of Picard, and I thought it was pretty good. I liked the whole story about Captain Rios and his captain, how, he lost the ship and it's a secret. But I thought it was very dark how Captain Rios' captain died because suicide, and the whole shot flash, or whatever you say, the initiation, whatever that was. That was very dark too because they were killing themselves. And I don't get why they're letting that one doctor back in the group. I honestly feel like they should let her just go to prison. And I thought it was really funny where that admiral told Captain Picard to shut the F up. That was pretty funny. I loved his reaction. He looked like I thought he was really gonna say something about it. It would have been nice if he said something about it, honestly. I hope in the future we get the Enterprise or the Defiant. I don't know if the Defiant's destroyed or not. I didn't watch Deep Space Nine, but yeah. Or I hope we see some new characters or something. I don't know.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your ears. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.